I think it's pretty easy to guess which one of the four pirate factions is my favorite. This is the Astarte, or the Astartes. Both names actually work pretty well. This is the Blood Raiders carrier. This is the first faction capital ships that we have received in the game, and I personally am waiting for the faction dreadnoughts because I already have everything necessary to build one Chemosh. Now, as with the other Blood Raider ships, the camouflage pattern is beautiful, and I believe that they are one of the most terrifying looking ships in the game. And of course, the hull design of this ship is a little bit different, which is one detail that I really like. Now, let's take a look at the trait description. Roll bonus, minus 100% energy Nosferatu overall penalty, plus 100% Antolis link activation time. The Astarte has a jump drive available. It can fit mothership defense modules, can fit carrier hangar modification systems, minus 60% drawn lightweight fighter command range. Lightweight ship bonus will give you plus 10% lightweight ship turret damage, plus 75% lightweight ship rocket damage. Versatile assault ship command bonus will give you plus 75% lightweight ship turret tracking speed, plus 75% lightweight ship status with speed decrease. Versatile assault ship defense upgrade bonus will give you plus 5% armor plate hit point bonus, minus 5% armor plate capacity need, plus 1 second armor plate activation time. Now, I personally don't really like the armor plate bonus because I don't use armor plates that often, but in some cases I guess you could technically make a armor plate build, but we will see how that will work. Team combat bonus, plus 5% carrier defense module mothership armor resistance, plus 10% carrier defense module damage transfer ratio, and the advanced carrier command bonus will give you plus 75% energy Nosferatu absorption efficiency, plus 75% energy neutralizer effect, and plus 20% status Wavifer optimal range. Overall, very nice, and does fit the Blood Raider role really well. Overall, should be pretty interesting to fly this ship. Now, the new carriers have a new slot. This is the lightweight frigate slot and the lightweight destroyer slot. You can fit 2 frigates and 1 destroyer. For medium, 8 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs. A decent defense of about 1 million, a little bit above 1 million. The Astarte is primarily a armor tank, but in some cases you could technically make a shield tank. Although I would still go with an armor tank because it has a lot more armor than shield. 61,130 gigajoule is the capacitor, 1,860 seconds is the recharge time. Maximum recharge rate is 82.16, it can lock 8 targets. 9.2 km is the signature radius, 75 meter is the sensor resolution, 104 meter is the flight velocity, and the warp speed 1.75 astronomical units per second. Overall, a very interesting little boat. Now let me show you the build and how do the new fighters work. Now, of course, no high slots. This is normal for carriers. 4053.12 DPS, and here is the swarm carrier defense. It gives you 100 points, so you can't warp. 90 seconds activation time, 210 reactivation delay. 75% is the transfer ratio. Lightweight fighter command range minus 50%, lightweight ship flight velocity plus 40%, lightweight ship damage bonus 47.32%, mothership shield resistance plus 20%, mothership armor resistance plus 25%, mothership inertial modifier minus 20%. So overall, a very interesting module. It does work for 90 seconds, then you have a long cooldown, so it's not an active module, but you activate the module and then it works for some time, then it shuts off. Now I have large Nosferatus. We are waiting for capital Nosferatus to be released, so when the capital Nosferatus are released, you replace the large ones with capital ones. And here are the lightweight ships. Now I have 4 of them because I have the hangar bay installed, and you can basically make any combination that you like. In this case, I can fit 3 frigates and 1 destroyer. There is two different hangar modification modules that I will show you, and overall the DPS does vary it. Each fighter has each lightweight ship has its own damage type. Here you can take a look at the stats. Warp's Kremler 3, Warp's Kremler optimal range 13, so I have about 9 points with this carrier by using 3 of these interceptors, or I can have 12 points if I use 4 of them, so a very good tackle ship surprisingly, and they're also very fast. 200 km is the drone command range. Now 3 of them all have the same stats. You can use the bomber as well as the destroyer, but I personally like to use the lightweight frigates and destroyers. Destroyers will have a little bit more DPS and a little bit more damage, but they will be a little bit slower, and there's going to be only 2 of them, while the lightweight frigates can be about 3 in a group. Overall, very interesting mechanic indeed. Then of course you have the other lightweight ships, but since this is a Blood Raider ship and it uses lasers, I decided to go and use lasers, but you can use any combination that you like. After all, the ship has bonus on both rocket lightweight ships and turret lightweight ships, so you can basically use both of them and it should work really well. Now the rocket ships will have a little bit, I would say, different the different damage type, basically missile damage type. Now in the low slots I have 3 adaptives, 1 reactive, 1 damage control, 1 capacitor battery, and dual armor repairers. This is the build that I like to use on my capital ships. And in the rig section, now this is over here the new carrier module that I'll be showing you in a second. The 3 combat rigs are 4P combat integration modules that are focused on full tank. After all, this is a 60 billion ship, so might as well go and spend a little bit more on rigs, because why not? After all, this thing costs a lot and it's super rare and it's special, so might as well give the ship some extra defense. 54, 73, 69 and 66% resistance. In the engineering rigs I have the capacitor rigs. This is the build that I did use on my old Balgorn, and it did work really well. Now this is the bipolar experimental carrier hangar hull mod, and here you can read the description. It does sacrifice one medium slot to give you 1 extra lightweight ship slot, and this is why I have 4 of them. Now I said that there is 2 of the modules, technically rigs, but I like to call them modules, and they are over here. So the mono experimental carrier will give you -1 frigate launch bay, but give you +1 destroyer bay, so you have 2 frigates and 1 destroyer. And here is the description. Now that's nice, and could work really well because you still keep the medium slot, but this one removes 1 medium slot and it gives you 1 frigate launch bay. So I have 3 frigates and 1 destroyer active in this ship. Now, as for the rigs, I did some testing before I actually started to fly this ship, and the drone bombs seem to work. The drone implant seems to work on the lightweight ships. So if you like DPS, then you can easily go and use the drone implant. Basically you can focus on tank, because the fighter modules don't work on lightweight ships, which is very interesting. Now let me undock and let me show you the active stats of this monster. Now my internet is acting up. Let me quickly swap to the data connection. Okay, and it works. Excellent. Okay, undocking, and we'll show you the active stats. We'll show the DPS and the other interesting things about
undocking.
About this ship. Now, I did not have a lot of room in the hangar to show you the full beauty of this ship, so let me just do this for a moment and let's appreciate the beauty of the ships in this game. Again, the Blood Raider camouflage looks absolutely terrifying with this thing. I love it, and it makes the ship a lot more, I would say, menacing. Of course, there are some new hull extensions on the hull to make it unique, which is very, very nice. Okay, now let me adjust the modules. The game always changes my module out every time I undock for some reason. I like to have my tank modules on the front, like this, and this is basically the setup that I like. Okay. Now, let's turn on everything. Okay, everything is active. Let's launch the fighters. I mean, let's launch the lightweight ships. Will take a while for me to get used to the lightweight ships. They're technically fighters, but they're not their ships, so yeah, might be the terminology I might mistake the terminology sometimes. 5095.57 DPS, which is, I would say, pretty okay. 6.5 million hit points. 89, 92, 91 and 91% resistance while everything is active without the damage control, which is pretty good. 591,000 hit points on armor. The capacitor for minutes and 12 seconds. 138 meters per second is the flight velocity. Surprisingly, these things are not that slow. They feel like big battleships. 3.4 thousand meters per second is the flight velocity, and 1,160 meters per second is the orbit speed of the lightweight ships. Now, here are the lightweight ships. For some reason, the texture does not want to load, but they have basically the same hull design as the normal ships, which is very nice. I guess I have to repair my client in order to fix this little bug. 2 destroyer groups, and 3 groups for the frigates, which is very nice. Now the module is now on cooldown, and 10,475 meters per second is the flight velocity when you activate the drone implant, which works on the lightweight ships, and it's very nice that it works. You can send the fighters at 10 kilometers per second and they can easily reach the target, and once the effect is over, the speed will return to the normal value at 2.8 kilometers per second, and that is honestly very nice. Okay, let's take a look at the damage control stat. Now this will be on cooldown for the next 170 seconds, so let's ignore that module for now. Damage control active, and now I have 15 million hit points, 95, 97, 96 and 96% resistance, which is honestly very nice. As a panic button, very tanky. This ship already has a lot of armor by default, so you can create a pretty tanky carrier out of this monster. And when you return the fighters, you have to return them one by one, because there is no return all option on the carrier, which is okay. I think that also counts for the normal carriers as well. And it looks like you can dock with the sensor mode anymore. I believe that used to be possible before, but it was changed. Now, let's see if the fighter mods work. Now I have the Imperial Navy fighter array and the micro drive guides. Now they should not work on lightweight ships, so using those modules on the new carriers is probably not a good idea, because after all the effect does not work. So you might as well focus on extra tank, or you might as well focus on extra capacitor. Depends on what you really need out of this ship. Okay, let's undock. Ship undocked. Let me readjust the modules. Okay, everything is on. Everything is on. Let's find out if the fighter modules work. Now it's 3.9 million hit points, 78, 87, 85 and 84% resistance. A little bit lower than the previous build, but I did have to sacrifice one reactive and one adaptive armor hardener in order to fit those 2 modules. Now the DPS is the same after activating the fighter control array. should give 17.92%, but it does not affect the DPS, and looks like it does not affect the speed. It's 2.8 kilometers per second, so the fighter modules don't work on the new carriers. So don't use the new carriers with the fighter modules, because as you can see, it does not work. After all, that is to be expected, because these things are not fighters, they are lightweight ships, and I guess in the future we will get modules that do increase the DPS and speed of the lightweight ships. But when you activate everything else, 94, 97, 95, 96 and 96% resistance, 14 million hit points with the mothership, with the defense module, and that was with the damage control. Now without the damage control it's 4.9 million, 84, 99, 84, 19, 89 and 88% resistance. Now you can dock, of course you can dock, because the sensor mode is active. Now I did fit the armor plates to see what kind of build it would be, and I have 2 adaptives and 2 plates. The armor increase is massive, 824,000 hit points, 824,000 armor hit points, but the resistances will be a little bit lower. It is to be expected, because it will be missing 2 of the
undocking
active armor mods. Okay, I have undocked, and let's see how the ship looks when I activate the adaptives. The damage control is also available, the defense module is still in cooldown, 4.9 million hit points, 78, 87, 85 and 84% resistance. This is on 824,000 hit points. Now this is a lot of hit points, and I can definitely see the plates work better, but the plates when activated will give you barely any extra armor, and this has been the case ever since they have been changed in the last April balance patch. Now with the defense module and with the damage control, the hit points is 18.7 million, 94, 97, 96 and 96% resistance, which is a lot of hit points, and overall I can see it work. However, the armor plates will make your ship slower, it will turn slower, and I personally prefer to have higher resistance over a lot of armor. Okay, let's dock and let's change the build once more. Now, you can also use the thermal circulation implant if you like to use the armor tank, because it gives you extra 20% armor resistance on all damage types, and this works with any armor tank ship. Doesn't mean that you have to fit Reliance. You don't have to. Basically use the implant as a passive effect, and I do that with the Revelation, with the Hyperion, with the Abaddon, and I will do it with this thing as well. So extra 20% armor resistance is always nice. So what is the resistance value now with this build and using the plates? Technically 20% is like using 1 extra adaptive hardener, so it should be a significant boost, and it is 5.9 million, 82, 90, 88 and 87% resistance on the armor with 824,000 armor hit points. The DPS is 4011, which is okay. And now
undocking.
Let me use the previous build that I showed you on the start. Should be a lot more tanky than with the drone bombs. Okay, everything is active. Some modules are still on cooldown. 6.1 million hit points, 88, 92, 91 and 90% resistance. Very nice. It's still 6.1, okay. Triple adaptives, 1 reactive, 1 damage control, 1 capacitor battery and dual armor repairers. This is a blood leadership, so it can easily do a combination like this, especially after capital Nosferatus are released. 7.8 million, 91, 94, 93, 92% with the defense module active and with the damage control active. It's 23 million, 97, 98, 98 and 97% resistance. A very, very tanky little carrier. I like this combination a lot. Almost about the same hit points as I have on my Revelation, which sits about, I think, 37 or 47 million, but that's the Dreadnought, so not really fair to compare them. Now, this is a Blood Raider ship, so it will get all the nice Blood Raider traits on the Nosferatus and webs. So if you have the other hanger mod installed, you can easily do the dual web and one Nosferatu, or dual Nosferatu and one web, or one web, one neutralizer and one Nosferatu combination. Works really well. Now as for fighters, some of them also have a stat that can web the target, so technically you can use the fighters, the lightweight ships, to web your target, which is a very nice thing. Basically, you can use the lightweight ships as modules that you don't have equipped on the carrier in the medium slots. Now, it is a little bit weird to have a Blood Raider with only 3 medium slots, but I think I will get used to it. So it's not really a bad thing. So you can use webs, you can use Nosferatus, it really depends on the build, but in my case I think I'll stick with the dual Nosferatu combo or dual Nosferatu and one web combo. The lightweight ships are also used as tackle ships because they have points. In some cases they actually will have a lot more points than the ship itself, which will help Blood Raiders with the lack of tackle. So very nice to see one Blood Raider ship that will not have any tackle issues. Don't forget that the sensor mode is available on this ship. After all, it is a carrier, and the sensor mode will improve the lock-on so that you can easily tackle targets. I can see this ship being used in camps, and definitely can see this ship being used in active combat, even in low sec perhaps, but at the moment they are very expensive and very risky to fight, because if spotted you can expect a whole alliance or perhaps even a whole coalition to go after it, so be very careful if you have one of these ships. And well, now on to the fun part. Let's go and let's blow up some ships. Let's see how the Astartes actually works in combat. Now, one big difference between this carrier and the normal Imperial carriers is the fact that this carrier is made to be used at close range. Now, for carrier standards, 200 kilometers is still quite long range indeed, but the other carriers can have up to 1,000 kilometers range, so the range difference is a drastic change. However, they are built to be tanky, they are built to take a lot of hits, and of course we have the faction extra stats on every pirate faction, basically. Some have webs, some have extra Nosferatu neutralizer performance and things like that, some have extra resistances, so they will feel like faction ships, oversized faction ships to be more accurate. And because of that, they are very easy to use at a close range. Now, I think that flying them at the moment in null sec would be a good idea. I would not be doing low sec missions in these things, although you can technically do it pretty safely because they have really good DPS, they have really good defense, and they have really good range. So while usable, and while you can easily use them in low sec for storyline missions, I would not do that. If you have your safe pocket inside nullsec, in deep nullsec, where you have alts that watch the pipes, and you have basically a warning system about a incoming fleet, then you can easily use them over there for ratting or for whatever you like to use them. They will work really well. They're tanky. However, be careful about the blue tackle, because I can just see it happen, a blue spy tackling one of your faction carriers, and then they drop a whole dreadnought fleet on you. Yeah, be careful about that, because I've seen it happen before, and I'm pretty sure it will happen again. So using these things is, well, I would say quite fun, because it's a new ship, also quite, let's say, risky. And if I were to fly them, I would probably just use them for PvP, because that's what I do. The first Astarte is with 999 kill marks, I can see that happen. However, the one thing that does prevent me from actively flying this thing would be the skills. Now, I have skills for cruisers, I have skills for battleships and for dreadnoughts, but I don't really have skills for carriers. So we'll have to skill for them, and by the time I have good skills for the carrier for this thing, the faction dreadnought will be released, so might as well just go and focus on industry so that I can build the faction dreadnought. But if you like carriers, if you already have carrier skills, then these things are actually very nice, and they are very fun, especially once we get the new rigs, when we get the new modules, because I believe that's the thing that's currently lacking: the damage mods for the lightweight ships, as well as a micro object guide for the lightweight ships. However, if you have the drone bomb implant, then you can use that without a problem. After all, as you could see, the drone bomb implant works, so if you like to use carriers, then go ahead and manufacture or buy one of these things. They're very nice. Now, the manufacturing process, it's a whole thing for another video. I will show you how these things are manufactured. And I really like how the manufacturing process in this game works now. The industry pilots will love the upcoming updates, because there's going to be a lot more ships to be produced in order to produce the fighters, in order to produce the faction carriers. You basically have to have the imperial hulls, which did add a little bit of consumption, and it's always nice. So the price of the ships is going to be going up slowly once the materials start to be running low. Now, at this moment, I thought that my lightweight fighters are actually repairing my ship, and the effect that you could see does look like the lightweight ships are repairing my armor. However, that's not really the case. That's the carrier defense module being active. It does look like a remote armor repair for some reason, so don't be confused if you see that effect. I'll also show you that it doesn't repair the armor later on in the video. However, one thing that I don't really like about this carrier defense module is the fact that it's not a full active module like the micro object guide or the firepower array. They have a cycle time, but they constantly keep cycling through. They're active. They're active module. Unfortunately, with the defense module, it's not the case. It has a 90-second runtime and then a long cooldown. So it's more of a tactical module. Use it when necessary. Could be good to withstand a lot of DPS for a short amount of time. 90 seconds should be more than enough, actually. And with the Force auxiliary ships being released for a long time now, you can use a combination between one of the faction carriers plus the Force auxiliaries to repair the shield or armor, depends on what carrier you're flying. So there's honestly a lot of ways and options how to fly these ships. Honestly, they're quite a interesting new addition to the game. Now I'll also show you the other hangar modifications and how they work on the other carriers. This carrier would probably benefit from an extra medium slot, while some of the other carriers could benefit from a extra lightweight ship slot. So all of the ships do have a slightly different tactic. However, all of them have one thing in common: they are all tanky, and they're all built for close range combat. So, what is so far the performance in this mission? It does clear it very nicely. Now, it has 4011 DPS, and I could probably increase that if I were to use a different lightweight ship layout. Basically, if I were to use ships that do explosive and kinetic, I would probably be clearing this faster, because the current ships over here have a hull on explosive and kinetic, but I'm using lasers, and lasers don't really do much damage on armor, so that's one thing that might appear to be lacking in this little mission here. So that's more of my fault than it is the ship's fault. After all, I did want to keep the lasers because this is a Blood Raider ship, but as I've mentioned on the start of the video, you can easily use the other lightweight ships that do kinetic or explosive, because the ship has a bonus on all of the turrets, and it has also a bonus on the rockets, so any combination that you use is going to work really well. However, it does track small ships very nice. It does track everything very nicely, even fast ships. So it's not really a problem to hold the targets, because don't forget that the lightweight ships have a scrambler, and the scrambler will turn off the micro overdrive of any ship. So that's one very interesting thing about the lightweight ships. Now I will find out which one of the ships has the web thing. Perhaps there's a chance that you get the web bonus once you equip them, but I haven't noticed the webs work, so perhaps they haven't been released yet, or perhaps they are working, just the effect is not showing. So I'll have to do a lot more experimenting to see how that works. Now looks like the pirate ships here have a problem to break my shield. Now you can expect the damage to just stop when I reach armor, because, well, the ship is heavily tanked, and I still believe that carriers should be heavily tanked. I've seen a lot of carriers go down because they had a very bad build, I would say. Capital ships should be tanky. It's nice to have good DPS, but when your ship is big, when your ship is slow, and when it's very easy to tackle, then it's very important to have a very good defense, because you can easily kill a tackle ship with a carrier even if it's full tank build, because most of the tackle ships can't really hold much incoming damage, and the carriers still do a lot of damage by default. Now one nice thing, you can long click on the lightweight ships and scroll down, then you can read the more detailed description what they do, which helps at deciding what kind of setup you want to have on your ship. Now we'll be very interested to see if I can technically fit a lot more of the destroyers. Technically I could, but I will have to test that out. Very curious to see if I can massively improve the DPS on the carrier. However, I'm still very happy with this current DPS that I have, because that's still more than enough to basically do anything. It's more than enough to camp, more than enough to destroy the sub-capital ships. After all, the carrier's goal is to go after sub-capitals. and it has enough tank to even withstand a dreadnought or multiple dreadnoughts. But be careful, because these ships are not really designed to engage dreadnoughts, so don't go after the other big capital ships, because they will be able to tank you and they will probably be able to break your tank at one point. So that's one thing to keep in mind about these new carriers. I was about to call them lightweight ships. A carrier, a lightweight ship. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I know. There is a lot of new things to load into my brain, so my apologies if I make a couple mistakes here and there. And finally, they have broken my shield. Now the carrier is in armor, and still this ship looks very nice. Not really sure why the hull is blinking. It changes color. I think I have to go and repair the client. That usually fixes all the issues that I have in the game. Well, I think this will be the last wave so far. 86, 92, 92 and 89%. Super tanky. And well, the damage just stopped. I'm taking basically no damage on the armor on this thing. Won't have to use the armor repair throughout this whole fight, which is very, very nice. This type of setup will work very well even in nullsec. Now, in some cases I believe players would prefer to fit multiple capacitor batteries. However, this is a Blood Raider ship, so having a lot of capacitor batteries is not really, let's say, required, because you still can use the capacitor of your targets. And this is where things get a little bit weird, because we don't have the capital Nosferatus. However, I'm pretty sure if the capital Nosferatus are released, they will have, let's say, a certain limit, and you probably will not be able to use the capacitor of subcapitals to replenish your own capacitor. It will have a penalty. So the large Nosferatus still kind of do the job just fine. After all, the overall penalty is still there, but in the end, when the capital Nosferatus are released, I will be switching to the capital Nosferatus, and in most cases one capacitor battery is more than enough to maintain the capacitor on this thing. Having multiple capacitor batteries combined with the capacitor battery general unit is also a very nice idea. Or perhaps if you go and focus on the engineering rigs, you can massively improve the capacitor on the ship. I did something very similar to the Balgorn, and since this is a Blood Raider ship and so far it does perform exactly the same like a Blood Raider ship, you can do the same thing on the Astartes without a problem. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with the performance on this thing. We will see if I decide to build one myself. It will take a while to actually get my hands on one of these things. Will be much easier for me to get the Chemosh, because I already have a revelation, already working on skills, and already working on ISK to get the capital ship materials. I also have friends who are also skilling that, so they will be producing the parts. And overall, I think when the Chemosh is
warp drive
released,
active,
you can expect the big chunk to arrive, and I'll be probably one of the first ones to fly it, just like I was one of the first ones to fly this thing. And now, I just want to show you that the lightweight drones, that lightweight ships don't repair the armor, so I'll warp back to the station. I will park right outside, I will launch the ships, and I will activate all of the modules, because I know a lot of players will be confused when they see the effect. They will think that the lightweight fighters are actually repairing your ship. They don't repair your ship. They actually that's the damage transferred to your ship when the mothership module is active. Okay, ship stopped, fighters are out, let's lock the station. Let's turn everything on. Okay, fighters are launched. Now as you can see there is no effect at the moment, but the moment I click on the mothership module you can see that the effect starts, but there is no armor repair, so don't be confused. This is not a remote armor repair effect. This is just a damage transfer that's done to your ship from the fighters, which honestly is a very nice thing. It automatically shuts down when your carrier is in hull, but I believe you're already going to be in warp long before the carrier is in hull. After all, these things are pretty expensive. So my thoughts on this ship: it's very nice. So if you have an Archon, and well, if you have two of them, you can sacrifice one Archon and you can build one Astarte. Overall, very satisfied with the performance, very satisfied with the tank. The tank on this thing is insane, very hard to shoot down, and overall the new carriers are a very nice addition to the game. Now, am I going to be flying this ship? Well, there is a 50-50 chance that I will, depends on the situation. Perhaps if I have, let's say if I have ISK to waste, I'll probably buy one just to have one, because why not? After all, I like my Blood Raider ships a lot, so it would be nice to have one of them in the collection. And let's dock. Oh, hold a second, I can dock because reasons. I guess the game changed that. The developers changed that. Used to be able to dock with the sensor mode, not anymore. Well then, hope that you enjoyed this faction carrier. This is the first one that I did, and I plan to fly the other 3 ones. You can expect them to be released within the next couple days, and well, with that being said, hope that the builds you see here help at building your own ship. And if you found the builds helpful, and if you find the ideas helpful, feel free to subscribe and like, helps out a lot. And of course, with that being said, hope that you enjoyed, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.